I'm sure this kind of video will cause some confusion, as you're likely taking a look at the numbering of the episodes and wondering why I've gone back to 1. Here's why. This is not a toy review. I present to you Dr. Lockdown's Anime Reviews, or DLA for short. Not sure if I've ever said this, but I've been wanting to do these for a long time. However, it was both a case of wanting to be sure the YouTube copyright system wouldn't skin me alive, and finding the right anime at the right time. After watching this film, I felt like my hand was forced because trying to say my thoughts about this online has just made a bunch of angry trolls decide to come to its defense and call me an uncultured moron. That's paraphrasing, by the way. They're actually a bit more civil than what you'd usually expect. This anime film, I feel, needs to have its issues addressed. Thankfully, Anime News Network has caught on as well. However, I didn't look at the article so as to keep my opinion intact. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Harmony is a 2016 science fiction film, the second out of the Project Ito trilogy, with the final installment yet to be released. I'll touch upon those later, but for now I'll jump right into the overview. The film is directed by Michael Ayres, who stands out because he's a non-Japanese director working on a Japanese anime, and animated by Studio 4 Degrees Celsius. At least that's how I think you say it. It centers around Tuan, a member of what I think is supposed to be a sort of CIA type group, as she returns to Japan after an incident in a war-torn country, only to find that a ghost from the past is terrorizing the city. You see, as a child she was part of a suicide pact with her 2 friends, led by Mia, who honestly has the creepiest voice in anime I've heard in a long time, despite having a name that sounds like a cat. Mia. The rest of the movie is basically Tuan going around to solve the mystery, or at least that's what the film's attempting to do. I'm just gonna come out and say it right away. The film is just goddamn boring. One of the key things a movie needs to do is keep the viewer hooked, regardless of what genre you're trying to do. Since this movie is a sci-fi mystery, there needs to be more suspense and intrigue. What we get instead is exposition. And more exposition. And more exposition. And even more exposition until you're just left sitting there bored out of your fucking mind. It's not even subtle. It's not even the subtle kind that deals with world building and character development. It seems like every line of dialogue in this film is explaining what's happening off screen or blurting out philosophy. Honestly, there's just no excuse. The thing about visual mediums is that you can show instead of tell, yet all that happens is a bunch of boring ideas and plot twists get explained to the viewer. It feels like I'm watching an M. Night Shyamalan movie. All I'm hearing is blah 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 again and again until finally the 2 hours are up. Another issue stems from this, and that's the lack of character development. I mean, I suppose you could count the flashback sequences between Mia and Tuan as character building, but even then it's just boring exposition, even if visually they are stunning, and honestly they're the best part of the movie. Being the main character, Tuan has to be compelling to the viewer, or, in the opposite sense, be not compelling to the viewer and make the viewer feel uncomfortable. If the director was aiming for this, then maybe he should have made her unlikable. But as it stands, they've just made her barely emotional and she just goes blah 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 blah. I know this sounds childish, but honestly, that's what these 2 hours of the film are. She barely shows any emotion, and when she does, it's so downplayed that nothing seems legitimate. One could argue that it's the nature of the dystopian society. However, from what I can tell, the Watch Me system is implanted to monitor health. I mean, it's pretty evident it doesn't have much effect on all the suicides taking place, so I don't think it affects emotions that much. And even other dystopian systems like the Sybil system from Psycho Pass didn't ruin the characterization. You know, that's what the film is. It's Psycho Pass, only with all the good stuff sucked out of it. The insane amount of time dedicated to exposition ruins any potential connection one could make with Tuan. Of course, the first half isn't too bad. However, in the second half, shit goes south so fast that you'll find yourself getting frostbite at One Ton Depot. And this problem happens to almost all the other characters in the film as well. Her childhood friends, said to have had character through exposition at the end, but actually she's just a bland piece of paper. Her father, relaying exposition about the issues in society. The obvious side villain introduced halfway through the movie? Okay, I swear this isn't a spoiler because come on, his character design is so obvious. But seriously, all he does is move the plot along by just doing things, and like he barely shows up at all. The only character I actually cared about was Mia, but honestly, despite having one of the creepiest voices, she still fell flat. Now, one of the things about animation is that it shouldn't matter how good it is if the story's good. Well, since we've got a shit story and shit characters, I think it's fair we can punch a few holes in here too. But don't get me wrong, even if the film had a stellar story and fantastic characters, this animation just looks terrible. The character designs are fine, they're unique but grounded enough to feel timeless, and most of the time they're animated well enough, but then we get to the CGI. This may sound strange, but I actually like CGI in anime when it's done right. Plenty of anime have great examples of this, particularly in the last 5 years. Harmony, however, shows off how not to incorporate CGI into your film. It's not that it doesn't blend well, it's just that they use it way too much. At least a third of this movie is expensive CGI, and it just ruins the immersion. Good CGI is when you don't know it's there, or when it's stylized enough for you to not care in the slightest. Hold the thought of the style for a moment, by the way, because I'll get back to that. Yeah, I can tell this is CGI. And this is CGI. And this too. It's like they're not even trying. The saddest thing is that this studio also animated Steamboy, one of the most expensive anime productions ever, helmed by the director of Akira, Katsuhiro Otomo. Yeah, I butchered that pronunciation. Fight me! It's really sad because that film has some of the best uses of CGI I've ever seen, and it uses even possibly more than this film does. Yet it does so to such a high standard that it doesn't really matter. Combined with the better directing, the CGI blends in fantastically. Here it's just used to be lazy when trying to animate the characters from a distance, and when to do these stupid spinning shots that happen way too often. Yeah, remember that scene from Nichijou where they kind of zoom into the classroom and spin around? That was clearly CGI. However, you couldn't tell because it was done well enough. And because it was once, the immersion wasn't lost too much. However, this uses it way too much. I've lost track how many circling shots this movie had. Now let's take back that thought about CGI blending in when the film is stylized enough. I bring this up again because this has to be one of the most nauseating futuristic cities I've seen in a long time. Whoever thought it was a good idea to make everything pink needs to be exiled from the anime industry right now, even if it was the director himself. On my first time watching it, I actually had to stop because I was getting a headache. Color in a film can be used in surprising ways to create a certain tone in a scene, and although I'm no film snob, I'm pretty sure that pink corresponds with innocence and cuteness. If they wanted to create an emotionless world like they were trying to, they probably should have made everything white and washed out, such as Ergo Proxy. It certainly would have been easier on the eyes at least. Back to the exposition problem for a sec though. In spite of how much explaining they do, the world really feels unexplored and underdeveloped. The context of the world needs to be set up through world building, and info dumps have to be done in some instances to get the point across. Despite all the exposition though, I barely know anything about this futuristic Japan. I barely know what Tuan was going to do before she was sent back there either. What war was she fighting? What was the significance? Also, what's with this separation between Watch Me users and regular citizens? Why is there a split? Is it a legal thing? They never explain it. And how does this connect with the calamity that caused the implementation of Watch Me? Not explained in the slightest. The anime barely touches upon any of these questions, visually or verbally. A good artistic film will put something in the background or have a subtle action placed in the scene to get the audience thinking and deducing how the world works. However, this film does not do that. It baffles me. It's so intent on having a bunch of exposition, yet none of it is dedicated to telling us the important things. Instead, we get boring old bullshit philosophy again. Which brings me to the ending. I'm going to go in a full-on spoiler mode here, so if by some chance you still want to watch the movie after all my explanation of why this film fails, I suggest you skip forward to this point. You good? Waiting. Okay, Tuan eventually confronts Mia in what I assume is a Russian outpost. It turns out that Watch Me has a program inside it that will turn everyone into brain-dead pacifists with the bare meaning of sentience. Not to say all pacifists are brain-dead, I'm a pacifist, I'm just saying that they'll literally be brain-dead in the sense that they don't have a conscience. And that by plunging the world into chaos, she is forcing the world to engage this program and bring about world peace. This actually works quite well, tying in with the film's underlying theme of words being a powerful weapon, weaved in with the beautifully animated flashback sequences. There's just one problem. Her plan doesn't make any sense! I mean, really, if she wanted to bring out world peace, couldn't she have just stormed into the area where the Harmony program is located and limited the casualties caused? And what about the people who don't have Watch Me implanted in them? Yeah, it's clear that not everyone's on board, and since it's implied that the program can be switched on and off at will, isn't it likely that those spared by its effects will just come back and bring the world back to normal? Even then, why don't the ones in charge just temporarily turn on the program, wait for everything to rebuild, then disengage it with no one having any memory of the event? And it gets worse from here. Tuan kills Mia under the logic that she's changed too much from when they were kids. And yeah, while it's still obvious that they were kind of in love as kids, I don't really get how she's changed. There's no difference between adult Mia and child Mia. Why is Tuan going, "You're dead to me now"? And what is with Tuan turning into a complete murderer anyway? What has killing Mia accomplished? The world's still gonna go to shit after this anyway, so what's the point? It's not like she's shown any emotion throughout the film that would lead to her revenge. I mean, when her father died, all she did was just say, "Oh, this is a moderate inconvenience." In fact, she mostly displays disappointment that she couldn't be more like her. And by the way, why is the film bookended with these shots of computer terminals? And what does that have to do with the story? Even if it's not anything to do with the story, the imagery isn't related, it's just slapped on there for the viewers to determine their own meaning. This ending makes no sense! So I suppose you're wondering how this film does in the end. Seriously? Have you even been watching the review? I suppose I'm only delaying the inevitable at this point. This film gets 2 stars, because there are far worse things you could be watching. I'd much rather watch this over something like The Asterisk's War or Infinite Stratos, but even then, just barely getting a 2. If Mia hadn't been creepy like she is, it would have easily been a single star. That aside, I'm still hopeful for the other 2 movies. even if Empire of Corpses hasn't been treated too well by the community. And Genocidal Organ is likely the project that officially bankrupted Manglobe. If just one of these films turns out to be good, then Project Ito wasn't for naught. However, if it's a trinity of crap, then I honestly feel sorry for the writer who's probably rolling in his grave, unless the problems stem from the source material, which I won't be reading. Yeah, you know what they say about anime, the source material doesn't matter. Got a problem with that? Deal with it.